Hello. Hi, my name is Alice Bullitt. I work for Bryn Film Institute, and I will be moderating our panel for our post-film discussion. We have some excellent panel members that I'm going to introduce in a moment. And also wanted to turn your attention to my colleague, Jill. She will be the mic runner. So if you have a question when we start the audience Q&A, just raise your hand and she will come up to you with the mic so that everybody else in the theater can hear your remarks. So anyway, I'm going to introduce all of our panelists who are going to come up and join us. They will also have microphones. Let's start with our filmmaker, Bonnie Gross. Bonnie is an award-winning comedy writer, producer, and post-production pro who's never met a taboo topic she couldn't turn into a smart, comical, and relatable story. She is originally from Philadelphia, as many of you know, and she is now based in New York City. She earned a bachelor's in media production from the University of Alabama and completed the UCLA professional program in TV comedy writing in 2018. Her film Lady Parts, which you just saw, is what we are here to discuss. She has also worked for several years in post-production at Encore Hollywood and Light Iron, and she now co-owns Bryn, which is a boutique finishing house in New York City where she partners with filmmakers to shape their stories at every stage of the post-production process. So here we are. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Bonnie. We are also lucky enough to be joined today by three really wonderful professionals working in the sector of public health around pelvic health and pelvic floor function, which is a really hot topic right now, as many of you know. So please join me in first welcoming Hina Sheth, who is the founder of Rebalance Physical Therapy and Wellness and a board-certified orthopedic specialist with advanced expertise in spine and pelvic floor rehabilitation. She's known for her holistic and hands-on approach, and she blends orthopedic manual therapy with movement practices like yoga and Pilates to help patients resolve complex pelvic pain and musculoskeletal issues. She's also a public speaker and has delivered an amazing TED Talk on this subject, which I encourage you all to check out. So welcome, Hina. Also joining us is Emily Sauer, the CEO and inventor by necessity of the pelvic people. She has emerged as a pivotal figure in pelvic health innovation driven by her own experience with painful sex. After 10 years of being dismissed by doctors and the greater zeitgeist that boasted bigger is better, Emily created an evidence-based, clinically backed, sorry, my pages are out of order, clinically backed ecosystem of tools for the 119 million women and AFAB people who have painful sex today. And she is also from the main line and lives and works in New York City. So welcome back, Emily. Okay. Please bear with me while I open up my computer for my last set of notes. Oh boy. There we go. Phew. Oh, sorry, that is the TED Talk. Okay. Lastly, please join me in welcoming Dr. Susan Kellogg, who's right up here. Susan, sorry about my pause. Please join us. Susan is a PhD and a CRNP, and she is the Director of Female Sexual Medicine at the Center for Pelvic Medicine in Rosemont. She is a nationally recognized expert in pelvic floor dysfunction, vulvar pain, and sexual dysfunction. She is a professor of OBGYN at Drexel University College of Medicine, a professor at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, and the clinical associate faculty at University of Pennsylvania and Thomas Jefferson University. So please welcome Susan. Thank you. So again, I think we're going to cover several different topics today, but I really did just want to start by talking with you, Bonnie. I know that this is like an autobiographical film. I would love it if you could share with the audience just a little bit about both like your backstory, but also very practical process of developing a feature film around it, and kind of what your journey was between having the experience and the idea and then getting it onto the screen with us today.
Yeah, obviously, as you saw, based on a true story, I got a vestibulectomy surgery in 2016, which was actually right after I graduated college, but movie magic, we changed it up a bit. But when I got the surgery, it was like the most isolating experience. I don't think I told any of my friends why I was getting surgery or what I was doing. It felt like this really taboo, stigmatized thing, and I had gone to 3 years, different medical professionals, 4 different states, was told to drink wine, try more lube. I mean, you saw the gambit of it in there. And it kind of, and we're talking before TikTok, Instagram, all that, there was nothing out there. And it just felt really isolating. And I wrote a blog post about it actually in 2016, and it didn't really even go into that much detail, but I had all these people kind of reach out to me and say, wow, that's really interesting, or I know someone going through that, or I'm going through something similar. And it kind of dawned on me, okay, maybe this isn't just happening to me, maybe this is happening to other people. And the more and more I ended up talking about it, the more and more I kind of come to find people relate to this, or know somebody, or in a relationship with somebody, or they're the person that are dealing with like chronic vulvovaginal or pelvic pain conditions. And so when I started writing this, it was really because I know how important visibility is, and like having a story like this on screen that, I think the statistic is like 1 in 4 people with vulvas will experience chronic vulvar pain at some point in their lives. So statistically, that's 25% of the people in this room. And so it's crazy to me to think that there hasn't been like a movie, TV show, or anything that even touched on this topic yet. And it's really under-researched, underfunded, the list goes on. It took me 10 years to make. We're in 2026 now. That was 2016, and I started writing in 2017. It's completely self-financed, self-produced. We had a really amazing cast and crew and team behind us, and that's why it's as amazing as it is. But it really was a labor of love from so many people that were involved. And so, yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm glad we're at this part of it.
Great. I guess what I'd probably like each of the different medical practitioners to talk about is like how your careers have intersected with this subject, and how you've addressed this kind of story and this kind of thing in your own practices.
So when I first went to physical therapy school, most people thought of physical therapy as you treat sports players and broken bones and backs and things like that. And it was at that time when I was in school that I had 2 women that came in and said, there's an area called women's health, and it's very underserved. We really need some, PTs to really start like pioneering this area. And so I ended up having an internship in Gainesville, Florida at a women's health clinic. And it was just amazing to just see how many women needed help with, everything from like postpartum to even now pelvic pain. And so when I lived in New York City, I actually met Bonnie's cousin, Amy Stein. And, I almost ended up working for Amy, and then I ended up moving here because I got married. And then I really wanted to actually combine pelvic pain and orthopedics because there's such a huge overlap that people don't realize. Everything from hip pain, back pain actually can blend and actually affect pelvic pain. And then I actually had my own personal experience with pelvic pain after actually having my son, and that's what the TEDx talk is about. And I just got to really experience like how you just appreciate what these women go through. And so really our practice has really centered around that, and we've seen everything and anything complex with pelvic pain. And you just see that with a lot of multidisciplinary help, including people like Susan, you can really make a big difference in, women's and men's actually, because men suffer too, but you can make a huge difference. So I love treating this topic and just see such a huge difference.
Thank you, Hina.
Hello, I'm Emily. I'm the CEO and inventor by necessity. So I'm a patient founder first and foremost, and I get it so deeply. And ultimately, when I had the very same experience, I went to doctors for over 10 years, and over that period of time, just felt completely powerless in a body that I didn't understand. In fact, one doctor told me that the only problem with me was that I wasn't getting any. And yeah, it's bad. So I finally just came up with a crazy idea. This is going to sound ridiculous, to put a donut around a penis. Because when penetration went too deep, it wasn't just a physical experience, like I deeply hated who I was as a person. And so I was like, okay, maybe if I don't go in as deep, we can work with this. And I started going to meetups, and like hardware meetups, sex tech meetups. I actually started going to medical conferences. You can actually buy a ticket and just start to go. And and I talked to a urologist on the phone. My mom is right there. She's like, we're in a gym class, talk to this urologist. I talked to this urologist on the phone, and I told him the issue, that I came up with this crazy idea. And he's like, listen, the problem about pain during sex is not big enough for you to solve. Don't quit your day job. But what you should do is talk to this really smart woman named Susan Kellogg. And I talked to Susan, and the first thing she said to me was, quit your day job. And I did. I quit my job, and I put my life savings into developing an ecosystem of tools for patients to meet them exactly where they are. There was a category that was missing in between medical devices that might feel overly pathologizing and sex toys that force people into this space of pressure of orgasm. Mm-hmm. There is a void in the middle that is human and friendly and accessible. And that is the toolkit that we are now creating and just like really diving into the medical backing and into the human nature around it and creating a difference in a space where there is an absolute lack of support. And thank you for having me. Thank you for this film. I was like crying the whole time. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. And also, Emily's donated like so many of the kiwis to us for all of our festival screenings. You'll see we'll do a raffle at the Q&A, but one of you will win a kiwi that's literally made by the pelvic people, and I love it and I appreciate it so much. It's been so much fun working with you guys, so thank you.
Oh my God, my company is called the Pelvic People. I forgot to
Pelvic People.
So I'm Susan. I'm right here in Bryn Mawr at the Center for Pelvic Medicine. Funny story, when I opened my center 14 years ago, oh my goodness, how long has it been already? But I wanted to call it the Sexual Medicine Center, and they said that was too racy for Bryn Mawr in the main line, so I called it the Pelvic Health Center. But anyway, having said that, I do sexual medicine all day, every day, and it was the intersection between my training in OBGYN and my training as a sexuality therapist and counselor that I couldn't believe that the two sets of professionals didn't really talk each other's language. Sex therapists didn't really know about a vestibulectomy or a vestibule back then. That was a while ago. And OBGYNs, sorry if there's anyone in here, they didn't talk about sex, ever. I mean, we got to have a baby, but that was about it. So sexual pleasure wasn't on the table. And so that was where my calling came from. I had to join the two loves of my life, excuse me, Kirk, you're number 3, but the true loves of my life to do this for a living. And then imagine my surprise when about 7 years ago, I was talking to a patient in my exam room, and I had some things in my hand, I had some specimens in my hands, and I was on my way to the lab. And the patient looked at me and said, Dr. Kellogg, I have to talk to you about something I haven't told you yet. And she was about to disclose something quite personal, and I couldn't leave, obviously, to go to the lab, because when that moment hits, you keep eye contact 100%. So here I am with these specimens in my hands. And I said, please, I'm all ears. And I went to sit down on my rolling stool you know how doctors have rolling stools, right? And I missed the stool, and I cracked my coccyx on the floor of my office. And I got to have my introduction to pelvic floor dysfunction and sexual pain, my very own. And it really does help it wasn't great, but it really does help to really broaden the understanding of what it feels like. So there you go. There's my story. My coccyx is better.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that too. I'll tell you my story later. I want to ask like one more question to kind of go down the line, and then I want to open it up. But I think one of the really unique things that resonated with me hearing all of you talk about this, the first thing is how underserved this population is. I mean, so many different parts of women's health are underserved, but this is like even at the far end of that spectrum. And then the other thing that struck me, and it really comes through in the movie too, but on the one hand, these issues that these patients can have, they're medical issues in one way, but they also have like such a mental health component and self-esteem in terms of like how we look at ourselves, and not just even how we interact with like sexual partners, but how we interact with our parents, with our friends, and it sort of bleeds into every different part of your life. But if you could just talk maybe about how that impacted you personally, if you have a personal experience, how you felt like that affected you, but also in your professional roles, how you work to address that wide spectrum of kind of needs in like a more holistic way. I think that would be something really interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it affected literally everything, as you saw on this movie. My parents are here in the audience, so I was very, very lucky and grateful to have the parents that I have. They're amazing, and they were really that supportive. And I know that not everybody gets that experience. And so for me, part of the, obviously it's to spread awareness, but it's also to kind of show how you can be a supportive parent, how you can be a supportive partner, how you can have conversations about this at the family dinner table. These things that can feel really uncomfortable, they're things that we can talk about and have open and honest conversations about, because at the end of the day, it's like she says, if it's on my shoulder, we could sit at the dinner table and talk about it. But because I have this nerve condition that happens to be in my vulvar vestibule, it's like, well, no, that's shameful, that's stigmatized, we can't talk about it. And at the end of the day, it's like someone's in pain, we should just talk about it. But they don't really talk about the mental health component of it. I tell everybody, like anxiety, depression, all of it comes with it. And then, meeting new partners, when you're meeting new friends and you want to tell them about it, you don't know how they're going to react to it. You don't know how new people are going to, even seeing new doctors, I still get like a panic attack every time I go to the OBGYN to get like a pap smear, because it's like such a like traumatic, like the past couple times when I went when I was like 18, they would just kind of shove the speculum in while I was like screaming in pain and just be like, can you like stay still? And you're like, no. No question about it, no nothing. And so it really is at like the bottom of the totem pole. And like the point I always try to make is you just watched a story of like me, which is like a privileged white, upper class, middle family who really struggled to find care. And you can see how hard it was for someone that looks and like comes from a place like me, mainline, to find this care. And I really struggled. So the problem is really, really deep rooted. And yeah, until I went through it, I had no idea what even a vestibule was. So I could probably go on for days, but it's really multidisciplinary. I'm still in pelvic floor PT. I'm still therapy, because even, after a vestibulectomy, your legs start cramping. You haven't used those for 6 weeks, so now you got to do PT for that. I also have scoliosis. That's a whole other thing, but yeah, it's a lot.
So I can speak from this from also personal experience, because after I had my son, and I had been treating a lot of pelvic floor pain patients prior to this, but I really didn't have that. I tried to understand as much as I could, and you try and handhold as much as you can, and you show empathy, and try and take that journey with them. But until I had my own son, and I experienced like how angry I was. Actually, like, you're so angry, And I'm also caring for a newborn, and I hate to say it, but you kind of start to have mixed feelings, like, should I have had a baby? And that sucks, because you don't want to feel that way when you're supposed to be in like the happiest moment of having your first child. And so I was angry, I was irritated. I think my husband for several weeks, and this was from a tear, so I ended up tearing, and it wasn't healing the way that it should. So every little thing hurt. Walking hurt. Like, it was probably maybe what you experienced after a vestibulectomy. Before, yeah.
Yeah, before and after.
Yeah, and so, everything hurts. Going to the bathroom, wiping, sitting. Food just doesn't even taste good because you're just stressed out about it and when it's going to get better. And my husband, I think after a while, because I was just like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, just leave me alone. He would just come and just bring me a flower every day and just put it down. Super supportive. So I think having that experience, I can even relate more to my patients. But just the mental health of it, and just knowing like it affects every single part of like the frustration kind of pathway. And just having that support and empathy and giving my patients that, I think is just so important. And just letting them know like that it's okay. This is not abnormal. You're not the only person that is going through this, and we'll get through this together. And if it's not me that can help you, I'll find the rest of the crew to kind of help you through this, So.
I had so many thoughts, and then they all just left at the same time. Yeah, I mean, in my experience of pain during sex, it's kind of like a slow trajectory down, and the more you ignore it, the less it actually goes away, which is the surprising thing, surprising thing. And I never felt further away from the people who loved me in my life. And when I looked for solutions, for pain during sex, I found porn and tools that promoted deeper penetration and orgasm and like the best sex ever. And I was just so, people are like, why didn't you do more research at the time? What? It's like, why would I jump into a cold pool? Like, I can't. So I actually like in my life stopped doing the work and just rejected touch. Like my relationship fell apart. And so as now the CEO of a company, it's critical that no matter where anyone is in their stage of pelvic health, when they come to us, they first and foremost feel a sense of validation. And then, whether or not you want to buy anything, we don't care. Education is number 2. Like, we are here to give you the words, the confidence to self-advocate, not just in the bedroom, but in the doctor's offices, with your friends, with your family, in your life, for yourself, right? In every package, like every piece of packaging, like we don't just hand people a thing and tell them go. A lot of times doctors who don't want to talk about sex, they'll just hand you a thing and tell you to go home and do it. In every package that you get from us, there is a letter from me. And I brought it, I came prepared. So the two tools that we have out right now are called ONUT and Kiwi. So this is the ONUT one. It says, a big congratulations not only on your new ONUT, but also on all the hard work that led you here. The journey is never easy. I tell you with my full heart, you are sexy exactly the way you are. You're a problem solver, a shoulder to lean on, a spreader of joy. You put a lot of love out there, and you deserve to live that love you share. So in the spirit of curiosity, embrace adjustment, awkward moments, and small, mighty victories. And know deep down, but not too deep, that you're doing great. Now go play. All of my love, Emily.
Wait, I'll do the raffle. We'll do the raffle.
So it takes a village to take care of people with pelvic pain, and it's really important that you can see how multidisciplinary we have. We have entrepreneurs and designers. We've got a expert pelvic floor therapist and physical therapist. We have a patient advocate over here. I do the medical part of it usually, and the truth is I could not do my job without everybody, the whole village that helps me do my job. I always refer to physical therapy. Always. I always recommend the ONUT, which is one of her devices. I will be hopefully, can I say that?
Yeah.
Can I say, you know what I'm gonna say, right?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so I always tell patients to stream Lady Parts on Prime Video. Let's hear it for Bonnie. But patient education, it's all that. And the other thing that's atypical in our industry is the appointment times are quite long, because you can't, in 10 minutes, tell me about this unbelievably earth-shattering experience. You just can't do it. So that is its own challenge to try to, make ends meet when that happens. Some of us are cash only. Some of us are take insurance and just pray to God that we get the reimbursement to keep our doors open so we can keep doing a good job. So it's the most rewarding field to work in ever, and we just keep doing it forever, right? That's what we're all going to do. So if you know anybody who has any sexual issues or pain with sex, and that includes male couples, who, by the way, have about the same statistic as female couples in terms of penetrative pain. How's that for an interesting stat, right? So it shows that it's not just a female problem. It's not, it's a genderless problem. But the truth is that there's help. There's lots of help now, even more than just surgery, which was around 10 years ago. There's so many options for care. And so please spread our word for us, if you will. Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to open up Q&A to the audience, and if you have a question, just simply raise your hand and Jill will come over to you and give you the mic so that you can, have your voice carried to everybody in the theater. I see any hands. Yes?
Hi everyone, so my name is Mary. I went to Drexel, and so did my friend Anna here, so go Dragons. And while I was at Drexel, we graduated in 2021, so we've been out of school for about 5 years now. I got a job working at Condom Kingdom down on South Street. So I have a lot of experience with this type of stuff. I absolutely love the intimacy product space. I think it's so interesting and there's so much happening there. I would meet women all the time who would come in and say, I want to buy a vibrator. I want to, have an orgasm, and I don't know what to do or where to start. And I'd be like, look at the wall behind me. Let me walk you through everything we got. There's so many options here, and there's so much stuff that nobody ever talks about. So this is wonderful that you're here. I had mothers come in and tell me, I have a daughter who's 18, and I don't know how to talk to her about sexual pleasure. We've had the period talks, we've had the sex talks, but how do I talk to her about having an orgasm? And I was like, let's talk about it now, and let's figure out a way to do this. So I totally love the space you guys are working in. I think it's really wonderful. After I graduated college, I ended up getting cancer. So I've had a lot of experience with physical therapy. I have bad neuropathy in my legs and feet from it. So I also have a lot of experience on that side of things. I actually got certified as a PCT because I wanted to maybe work in the medical field, and I've been really thrown off the past couple years because of all these experiences I've had. But I loved this movie. I loved the way that it discussed sex and orgasms and sexual pleasure for women as something kind of uncomfortable that nobody ever wants to talk about. And then nobody ever explores it, and so nobody ever gets that pleasure, that joy they're looking for, and it can be really depressing. But I wanted to say I know all about the Kiwi, and I know all about the O-Nut. Working at Condom Kingdom, they were products I tried to get into the store. I think that it's wonderful. I think getting spaces more designed for women is just really what we need to do. We need to work on that. So you very much had like the dream job that I was searching for a couple while there. No, absolutely. I'm back home. I'm 27, so I'm the same age as Paige. I'm living at home with my parents, like trying to figure it out. So I just want to say I really loved this movie. I love the message it had. I think it's really wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm also also back home with my parents again, so it never ends in your 30s.
It happens. I have friends who, like, their kids are leaving for college right now. They're like, I'm gonna miss them so much. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Anybody else? Questions, comments, reactions to the film? Okay, I see Jill kind of got her evil eye.
Hi, I'm a little nervous, but I'm Nest. So I actually follow Bonnie on Instagram. So this is kind of personal for me because I went to the same place that Bonnie did in the film, the CBD. I actually went to DC. So last year, after years of suffering from similar pain and stuff, I went to see different physicians, same place. I had like a lysis procedure coming up, and I was super nervous, and I was kind of looking at stuff online because like was mentioned, it's such an isolating condition, and I struggled with this since I was about 20 years old. I'm 25 now, and I felt like every time I looked at people my age or whatever, it was like, man, I'm like the only person I feel like that really has this problem. So seeing your film, I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, someone made a film about this. It takes a lot to be vulnerable about something so sensitive, I think. So I was super excited to come. I actually came from Delaware to see it today. I had the procedure last year, still figuring it out. It sucks because honestly, it really does affect every facet of your life. I recently got married, and I've been with my spouse for a very long time, and you know, they've stuck by me, which is great, you know, but it's something that I don't think it's really like talked about, other than the physical pain itself. It's the isolation and how it mentally like affects everything about how you feel about yourself, how you look at yourself. You feel like you're doing something wrong, also being dismissed by other medical professionals, you know, originally that may unfortunately not be aware of these conditions, and they just tell you to relax or whatever, or we don't really know what's going on, which sucks. So, love the film, thought it was really cool to see that brought on as, you know, public space. All these people are here watching it. I guess my question, and this extends to everyone since I know all the speakers have their own personal history with pelvic pain and things of this nature, is other than like the physical problems that you get from it, like what advice would you give to women and other folks suffering from the same condition, like how to sort of like take time to deal with some of those feelings in a productive way, just so it's, you know, you don't feel so horrible about it. Anyway, thank you.
The first thing I'd say to all people is trust your voice. I think sometimes, depending on how you're raised, or it may be in a religion or lack of religion, or maybe in a culture or a different culture, women are too often told, shh, it's gonna be fine. Just, you know, just have some wine. Just it's gonna be fine. And so the first thing I would say, the very first thing is trust your voice and stick by it. Stick by your story, because you don't have any reason to make that story up. That's real, number one. Number two, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but use AI. AI can really help to educate people about the treatments of vulvar vestibulitis. It's unbelievable. The last 3 or 4 patients I recently had from out of town, I said, who referred you? And they said AI. Go figure. So, you know, it is coming with the program, with medical science is emerging and changing. And it's not just a surgical option now. There's lots of other options besides, not that surgery is bad, by the way, but there's other options besides surgery. And then the last thing I want to say is get your group around you, get your family around you, I guess, literally and figuratively speaking. When I say it takes a village, it does take a village. So there are support groups online. I'm thinking of Tight-Lipped.
Yeah,
you guys, Tight-Lipped is something that you can join virtually, or else you can, I think they have some in-person meetings as well, but there's lots and lots and lots of ways to connect with other people. And if you have a good healthcare provider, they can also introduce you, with permission, obviously, to another patient or two that you can talk to, so.
I mean, I don't know how much I have to add. I mean, it depends if you're like an internal processor, external processor, how vocal you want to be. I mean, for me personally, it was just talking about it. I literally told no one that I had the experience that I was having, including partners, except doctors who didn't listen. And then all of a sudden, I came up with this crazy idea, and I had a sense of ownership about it. And that ownership lent, like, kind of became a sense of, it's just like a confidence and even just like an eagerness to talk about it. And I would just, when I come, I'm like, oh my gosh, I came up with this crazy idea for the pain that I'm experiencing during sex. And then people would be like, wow, okay. Whoa, tell me about it. You know, it's like when you come from a place of confidence, and I know that that confidence is not always there. But talking about it really helps, because it is way more common than we think. And they're also, like, Reddit is like there's a ton of Reddit groups that talk about this all the time if you just wanted to get kind of anecdotal support. Yeah.
Yeah, but not much more to add other than, you know, I started back in 2000 when nobody knew what a pelvic floor was. And after, I would say, COVID, everything blew up. And so before, when I was treating patients that were like, nobody's heard of this, I don't know what's wrong with me, there's like one physician here that maybe knows about this. Now it's like so many people talk about it. So there's nothing, especially now, to be ashamed about. There's so many forums, chat, you know, or any of these AI platforms, like, you know, they will definitely give you significant information. It's unbelievable. And so I think nowadays you should not feel embarrassed at all. There's so much awareness and there's so much more social around this that I don't think it's as much of a stigma as it used to be.
First of all, I want to say thank you for coming down to the screening and driving all the way here. Thank you so much for following on Instagram. That means the world. And I'm so sorry you're also going through this like terrible, terrible thing, because it really is such a crazy experience that, especially when you go through the whole vestibulectomy surgery recovery process, all of it, like no one truly understands it till they like do it and go through that. And believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I actually was really shy growing up and I didn't really talk to people. And it was really like a journey, a 10-year journey for myself to get to this point where I finally feel confident, like even talking about it in front of a crowd and telling other people about it. Like, I think when people watch it, they're like, oh, she just came out the womb just talking about vaginas. And like, no, I did not. No, it was like such a slow process of me finally like getting comfortable with myself in the space. And for me, like the thing I used to cope is comedy. So like immediately, I think it was around COVID when I finally started putting some TikToks up about this and getting some really positive feedback that I finally started to get like some confidence around it to be like, okay, maybe I can use this as the mechanism to finally get people to listen. Even though I started the script in 2017, I didn't really till 2020 say, you know what, I'm gonna self-produce this and do it. But the pandemic was crazy, the breakup, whole thing. But I think that I don't know, like for me it was like really like art, creativity, stuff that I could do that like felt like I was actually like physically doing something kind of helped, versus like I feel like it just took a long time for me to get to that phase. And like I tell people too, like even on set, I mean we're talking years and years after the procedure by the time we're on set, and there were definitely scenes that we were doing that I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting to feel something today, I'm gonna go step out for a minute, you know. Or I actually took therapy sessions on set and I would just like tell everybody, be like, I'm gonna be gone for 30 minutes and I just kind of leave and come back. But I think it was important. It's an important part to like the mental, the physical, like all those kind of tools it takes, because it's like healing's never linear and you're gonna go back and forth and you're gonna have really good days and really bad days. But if you can find whatever that outlet is for you, you know, whether that's art, writing, sport, I don't know what you like to do, but whatever that outlet is, I found has been like extremely, I don't know, making this was like what I feel like I had to do to like get over it.
First of all, thank you to each of you for your contributions to women's health, and specifically to pelvic floor health. I haven't actively, searched anything on this topic, so, I know with women's health we're told you need to exercise, build muscle, build strong muscles to be healthy. Should we be actively doing anything for our pelvic floors to maintain strong pelvic floors?
So, okay, so there are things that you definitely can do, but it's different depending on what is actually going on with your pelvic floor. Because in the pelvic pain world, most, I would say a significant portion of the time, we are talking about muscles that become tight and restricted and have less blood flow, which then adds to the whole pain kind of layering that people have. So in those instances, we're not usually having people tighten their pelvic floors, like do Kegels and things like that typically. Usually we're trying to get them to learn how to relax their pelvic floors and to create better blood flow and flexibility in these muscles. Some people have a mixed pelvic floor, so they can have some weakness, but they can have some tightness. So they might need both. Eventually, they may need strengthening exercises once you relieve and improve the flexibility of the pelvic floor. And then you have other people who have weak pelvic floors, especially, postpartum, people think of incontinence and those types of issues, and they do truly have weakness of the pelvic floor. And for them, they do need to learn strengthening, correct strengthening, because even with a Kegel, like 70% of the population is doing a Kegel incorrectly. So they might have to learn strengthening exercises, but they also need to learn coordination, because a lot of people actually are not coordinated. And even amongst all that, the pelvic floor is actually tied to your breathing, which was funny because when we were watching the first part of it, I'm like, that's hilarious. So your breathing and the way you speak actually affects your pelvic floor. It's pretty wild, like everything you do from speaking and singing. I mean, I've treated like opera singers that have incontinence when they're trying to reach those high notes. So yes, there's a lot of things. It's a Pandora's box sometimes. But I would say if you're not sure if you have a pelvic floor issue, you always can see a pelvic floor therapist, and literally we'd be able to tell you within that first visit whether there's a problem or not.
Oh, I would just agree. PTs are very helpful in the diagnostic process. Go to her.
And now, thankfully, a lot of your regular OBGYNs that you go to or urologists, you can say, hopefully they're checking your pelvic floor, but if they're not, you can say, could you check my pelvic floor and see if it's okay? And if they don't know, then again, listen to your voice and keep trying and get into pelvic floor PT or go to another OBGYN or go to someone who knows what that is.
Hi there. Hi, Alice. Leslie Hahn, BB's English teacher, 5th grade. I just have 5 short things. One, the film. I'm 60 now, and that film tapped into my sadness about how I was never educated about how my body, when healthy, is supposed to work. The shame I had as a teenager with what my body did. And it wasn't until I was pregnant that I learned why my body went through the cycle it did. And that is far too late in life to see the beauty of what my body is intended to do. It was way too late. 2, I was also frustrated, so frustrated about the truth about women's health care and how things aren't covered under insurance, and just the assault on women's health care politically. And then from a filmmaker's point of view, I loved every angle of the young woman's face, how we just lived through all of her experiences. I was frustrated over her boyfriend's reaction. Yet I know that that's all part of the thing we women experience is how do we educate the men we love to understand what's going on over here. And so that brings me to the development of the father. How I experienced him was humorously clueless as the story went on. And then there was the moment where he just got my heart with his daughter. And then the way my relationship to the mother unfolded. And then you got me with that scene where she talked about her cancer with her daughter. And I thought so many moments were so, I had to wait for those, and that's what made them that much more poignant. So the timing was really lovely.
Hello, I'm Nick. Just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. I know we can't solve every issue here in this room in the next few minutes, but just generally, my question is simply, where do you hope we are in 10, 15 years' time on the issue of women's health, pelvic floor health, sexual health?
Well, I hope that we front end this when little girls go to in class learn about their period, and even before that, you know, to learn that the pelvic, people used to say on the elevator, am I at the pelvic floor? Because they didn't even know what a pelvic floor was. You know, men have pelvic floors, women have pelvic floors. So I think what I want to see it start at an education level with little kids, you know, because they now can say vagina, right? They learn all the proper words for all the body parts. And I just want to, I really hope that what we see in 10 years is it's the most common vernacular. Everybody knows what a vestibule is. Everybody knows what a pelvic floor, and the importance of pelvic floor health should be underscored from a very early age.
I'm going to go from the other angle, from the top down. We need doctors to be able to talk about sex in a way that is not stigmatizing or alienating or judgmental, because it is very much an indicator of our health as an entire person. And when doctors don't take it seriously, we don't take it seriously. So I'm actually very proud my company has contributed one IRB-approved study with an endometriosis patient population for ONUT. And we are now recruiting, or we're not, because we're not allowed to, but the group that we're working with is recruiting for a second study for Kiwi efficacy. And so contributing to the scientific literature to actually move the needle for the standard of care.
And I'm going to take it actually on both angles. So from the medical side of things, I think every single GYN resident needs to have a very designated time period where they learn about pelvic floor and pelvic health and pelvic pain and sexual pain. Because I know that just from my experience that it now has started to enter a little bit more into the GYN's, you know, fellowships and residencies and things like that, but still not enough. They maybe get a couple of lectures on it, and I know that I've gone and given talks to them, and I've said, how many talks have you had on this subject? And they're like, maybe one. And so if our professionals don't know about this, then, you know, it's a disservice. But actually on the other angle, and Susan had talked about this, is that as much as, yes, it should be in schools, I also think every parent, every mom, even every dad with their son needs to talk about this with their kids, if we can also make it as a norm topic that people can talk about with their children. Because sometimes those kids won't open up, even though they hopefully do hear it in school at some point. But if they can feel confident and comfortable and safe enough to speak about it with their mom, or the mom brings it up to the child and says, hey, have you been, you know, are you trying to use a tampon and does it hurt? Hey, let's try and, you know, find the right person to kind of help figure this out, would be great.
Yeah, all that. Basically my dream is that someone watches this film in 10 years and goes, that's ridiculous. Like, all this stuff is like so easy to take care of. Like, I just went to my first doctor and it's amazing. And it was fully covered. And, you know, my dream is that like they watch this and like, this film's so dated. That would be amazing. But in reality, the last thing I'll say, there's an amazing organization called Tight Lip that's actually Their main goal and their campaign is to get into OBGYN residency programs to try to get this into the curriculum. We're actually doing our first ever patient panel at Temple in April, which is really cool. But yeah, currently a lot of these programs, like, you know, when you're having sexual pain, you're like, well, I'm gonna go see the vagina doctor, I'm gonna go to my OBGYN. And if they don't know what's happening, then, you know, that might be your last stop for a lot of people. They don't really pursue it after that. And so even if they're able to refer or just give that basic line of care, that's like our goal, is to make sure that like the next generation coming in doesn't have to go through this. But I know we have to wrap it up. So we'll be outside. We're at 2 tables outside. Come talk to us. But you got a friendship bracelet when you walked in. And thank you to Emily. One of you will be walking away with a kiwi. I'll give it to her to hand out. So does everyone have their bracelet out? And I'll be honest, I don't know, this is not rigged, I promise. I don't know who has it. Who has read my lips? Or read her lips, read my lips, anything in that nature. Oh my God! Oh my God! Okay, oh my God. Okay, let me think of a different bracelet that we've made. Does anybody have Dick Dungeon? Yeah. Hey! Yeah.
Congratulations to our winner.
And lastly, the last thing I'll say, and then I'm sorry, we're streaming now on Amazon Prime. You can rent it or buy it. The best thing you can do to support us right now is by going on Amazon, renting it, watching it, and leaving us a review. Also, be sure after this to go on Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes and all IMDb, and please leave us a review. It takes 5 minutes, and it really, really helps us more than you know. So really appreciate you guys all turning out here Saturday.
And thank you so much, Shivani, and thank you to our lovely panel of experts. And thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you again soon at Bryn Mawr Film Institute.